In 2025, China plans to restart an ambitious railway project in South America. This super railway will connect three South American countries, open up a trade route directly to Asia, and bypass dependence on the Panama Canal. Once completed, this railway will completely rewrite the trade map of South America, and China's influence in the field of infrastructure construction in South America will be further enhanced in the future. But for the United States, this is undoubtedly bad news. Today, as Washington continues to increase pressure on China, this railway may be the key move for China to break the blockade and open up a new situation. So, how important is this super railway? And why did South American countries choose to restart it? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. After delaying its progress. As the world's largest manufacturing power, 90% of China's import and export cargo volume of goods manufactured in China is currently completed by sea transportation. And the most critical transportation channel is the Strait of Malacca. This narrow waterway with an average width of only 2.8 kilometers is an important throat connecting the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. At present, more than 60% of China's container ships must pass through the Strait of Malacca every year, and about 80% of imported oil is also transported back to China through here. It can be said that the Strait of Malacca is the lifeline that is truly related to China's development. In addition to the Strait of Malacca, the Panama Canal is also an indispensable channel for China's maritime transportation. Every year, the volume of goods transported by China through the Panama Canal accounts for 6% of the global maritime trade, and the volume of Chinese merchant ships passing through the Panama Canal also accounts for 21%. Interestingly, the United States has always been obsessed with its control over the Panama Canal. In February 2025, U.S. President Trump made a high-profile statement that he would take back the actual control of the Panama Canal and its surrounding ports. It should be noted here that once the United States takes over the Panama Canal, they will be able to control about 10.4% of the world's container throughput, directly ranking among the top 3 port operators in the world. By then, the United States can arbitrarily charge high tolls to Chinese ships and suppress China's development by virtue of its position in the global shipping field. But we can see that, whether in the past or now, the United States has failed to really succeed in blocking China several times. Of course, China is by no means a target for being bullied. Now, China is intending to restart a corridor project that bypasses the Panama Canal, which is the Two Oceans Railway located in South America. As far as I know, the Two Oceans Railway refers to a super railway project across the entire South American continent, connecting the Pacific coast and the Atlantic coast, with a total length of about 5,000 kilometers. Among them, about 2,000 kilometers are existing railway lines, and the remaining 3,000 kilometers need to be rebuilt. The goal of the project is to open up a logistics artery across the South American continent, directly connecting the coastal ports of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and the port of Chancay in Peru. Simply put, China will join at least 3 countries to lay a new channel directly to Asia, bypassing the traditional Panama Canal. According to current estimates, the budget for the entire project may be as high as $60 billion, and the scale of investment is very large. Once completed, it will become the first railway in Latin American history that truly crosses the South American continent. In order to pave the way for the Two Oceans Railway project, Chinese engineers went to Brazil for a field investigation in April 2025, focusing on evaluating the existing railways, roads, and water transport systems in Brazil to prepare for subsequent projects. From the current situation, this super project has officially entered the stage of technical research and financial evaluation, and the progress speed is far beyond the expectations of the outside world. Prior to this, China had completed a key node of the Two Oceans Railway, Chancay Port. As one of the key projects of the Belt and Road jointly built by China and Peru, the first phase of the Chancay port project was launched as early as 2021, and 4 berths were built. The maximum water depth of the port reaches 17.8 meters, and it can dock ultra-large container ships with 18,000 standard containers. The recent design throughput is 1 million standard containers per year, and the long-term goal in the future can reach 1.5 million standard containers. At present, the port has taken the lead in operation. In the past, most of the goods exported by Peru to Asia or Oceania needed to be transferred via Central and North America, and the transportation time was as long as 35 days. After the official operation of the Chancay port, the voyage from South America to Asia was shortened to 25 days, and the overall logistics cost could be reduced by 20% to 30%. It should be noted that the influence of the Chancay port is not limited to China and Latin America. Countries like Japan and South Korea on the west coast of the Pacific can also share this sea expressway that crosses the eastern and western hemispheres and the northern and southern hemispheres through the Shanghai port. Now, with the official opening of Chancay port, China will shift the focus of the Two Oceans Railway to Brazil. For Brazil, in the future, they can use the Two Oceans Railway to transport their soybean products to Chancay port and then to China. The transportation time will also be shortened from the original 60 days to less than 30 days. It can be said that the Two Oceans Railway project promoted by China basically opens up a brand new super channel in South America that goes directly to Asia without passing through the Panama Canal. However, why has such an important corridor project with a very bright prospect been shelved before? In fact, the Two Oceans Railway project can be traced back to the 1960s, when leaders of Latin American countries proposed the idea of connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans by rail. However, due to the backward economic development level, complex geographical environment, and limited technical conditions at that time, the project ultimately failed to advance. In July 2014, China, Brazil, and Peru jointly issued a statement in Brasilia, announcing that they would jointly carry out cooperative research on the Two Oceans Railway. The statement clearly stated that the relevant departments of the 3 countries would conduct basic research on the feasibility of the Two Oceans Railway and plan to provide necessary support and convenience within the scope permitted by the laws of their respective countries. Later in May 2015, China, Brazil, and Peru jointly signed a Memorandum of Understanding on the joint feasibility study of the Two Oceans Railway. However, during the research process, everyone also found a lot of problems. The most difficult one is the huge challenge brought by the natural environment. Since the railway must pass through the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the world, the climate here is humid and hot, the precipitation is abundant, and the terrain is complex. The swamps and floodplains along the way are like natural barriers, which seriously hinder the advancement of the project. Not to mention that after entering Peru, the railway needs to cross the Andes Mountains with an average altitude of 4,300 meters, and the highest point even reaches 6,768 meters. This complex terrain has extremely high requirements for engineering technology, which is as difficult as asking an elephant to dance on a tightrope. In using the route planning of the Two Oceans Railway at the time, there are many indigenous communities living along the line, especially important Indian settlements in northern and central western Brazil. At the end of 2016, an Indian tribe of about 300 people that had never been confirmed was discovered deep in the Amazon jungle in Acre State, Brazil. Railway construction must fully consider the rights and lifestyles of these groups to avoid causing social conflicts. In addition, political changes occurred in Brazil and Peru at the time, which further hindered the progress of the project. In addition, the construction of such a huge railway project also requires huge financing. According to preliminary estimates, the total investment of the entire Two Oceans Railway project is as high as $80 billion. The initial estimated cost was $60 billion, of which the Peruvian section cost $35 billion, and the Brazilian section was expected to cost $25 billion. Such a huge funding gap is undoubtedly a heavy burden for South American countries. Of course, as an important project in Latin America, the United States is also worried that the Two Oceans Railway project will weaken its dominant position in the global shipping market. So they're also exerting political pressure, which indirectly led to the stagnation of the Two Oceans Railway project. However, by 2025, the situation has changed. Due to the tariff war triggered by the Trump administration, Brazil's soybeans and mineral resources have gradually replaced the United States and become China's main importer. Against this background, the economic and trade demand between China and Brazil has expanded rapidly. So in April 2025, China has officially intervened to restart the Two Oceans Railway project. This makes people wonder, the Two Oceans Railway, that was once stagnant due to funding, environmental protection issues, and U.S. pressure. Can China restart the project this time? I believe you also know that China is now a global leader in infrastructure construction. On the technical level, China has accumulated rich experience in railway construction in complex terrains such as plateaus, mountainous areas, and wetlands. The Reshape Railway, which was completed and opened to traffic in China in 2021, successfully crossed the Hengduan Mountains and the Yarlung-Zhongbao Grand Canyon at an altitude of more than 3,000 meters, and its difficulty is comparable to that of the Andes. Chinese engineers have mastered mature plateau railway construction technology, which is also a major breakthrough for the construction of the Two Ocean Railway. Of course, in terms of environmental protection and community relations, China is also actively exploring sustainable engineering practices. For example, designing green channels to protect wildlife migration routes and using low-noise tunneling technology to reduce interference with local communities are all experiences that China has accumulated in global engineering practices. At the same time, by providing technical training and involving local residents in construction and future operation and management, the social inclusiveness of the project can also be enhanced. In order to complete the project, China has proposed diversified solutions. At present, China and Brazil have established a China-Brazil Capacity Cooperation Fund with a total amount of $20 billion, with China contributing $15 billion. In addition, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank may also provide financial support for the project. Chinese development financial institutions have provided $45 billion in credit support to Latin America through the China-Latin America Cooperation Fund and the China-Latin America Capacity Cooperation Investment Fund. All of these provide possibilities for the financing of the Two Oceans Railway project. As one of the promoters of the project, China will also benefit greatly from the railway once it is built. At present, China's trade and transportation with South America mainly rely on the Panama Canal, but its lock toll is high, with an average of $250,000 per cargo ship. After the completion of the Two Oceans Railway, the overall transportation costs could be reduced by more than 30%, and China's annual trade with South America, which is worth more than $280 billion, will save about 15% of the logistics costs. At the same time, the railway will provide a more convenient channel for trade between China and South American countries and promote trade between the two sides. China can sell machinery, electronic products, etc. to South America more smoothly, and South American beef, copper mines, etc. can enter the Chinese market faster, further deepening economic cooperation between China and South America. In addition, through the Two Oceans Railway, South American resources can be more directly supplied to the Asian market, which will impact the pricing power of Australian iron or American soybeans, etc. in the Asian market, giving China stronger bargaining power in the procurement of related resources. Coincidentally, in the past 2 years, in order to get rid of its dependence on imports from the United States, China has significantly increased the scale of corn, soybeans, and beef imports from Brazil, Argentina, and other countries. Therefore, once this railway is completed, many countries in South America will also benefit from it. At present, China and Brazil have reached a preliminary consensus. Brazil has shown a high degree of interest in the project, and China has also clearly expressed its intention to provide investment support. It seems that the US wants to interfere this time, but the success rate is probably not high. After all, the United States has difficulties in even returning manufacturing, let alone competing with China in the field of infrastructure. So, next, it depends on what choices the South American countries will make. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.